Hi, I'm Joyce Danger, and I want to thank you for joining us today. I don't know if you remember the story of Alice in Wonderland, and Alice and the Cheshire Cat are chatting a little bit, and Alice asks, which road should I take? And the Cheshire Cat says, well, where do you want to go? And Alice says, well, I don't know. And then the Cheshire Cat says, well, then it doesn't matter. If you're listening today, then there's a good chance that you kind of know a little bit about where you want to go, or at least you're curious about it, and that's a good thing. And so you're educating yourself and learning what things you might want to know about Mary Kay or about building your business. And part of that involves, what are you going to do when situations happen that maybe are not what you had really planned to happen? You know, we all have a plan A and a plan B, and sometimes things don't happen the way that we were thinking it would happen. And if you think to, like, dealing with kids, or when you were a teenager, there's situations that happen that you were planned for. And so, like in today's world, we say no to drugs, or there's campaigns about cigarette smoking and different things that happen in life, and that's so that you are, hopefully our kids are prepared that if they would be in this situation, this would be an idea of what you might do in that situation. And I think that's certainly helpful as compared to, I think back to when I was a teenager or in college, and we didn't know these situations were even going to come up. So all of a sudden you go to the party and there's interesting brownies and interesting all sorts of situations that my parents didn't coach me about, because they didn't know that these things would be happening. So we didn't have a chance to pre-decide what we would want to do in those situations, and our kids hopefully have a better idea of how to plan for these things. In Mary Kay, what I'm suggesting is that we make pre-decisions about our business too, and what things might happen and how we're going to deal with them ahead of time, so that we're not getting stuck in the emotion of the situation or just not knowing what to do. And sometimes when, I don't know about you, but when I'm in a situation I don't know what to do, sometimes I make the wrong choice, or I don't make any choice at all, and then I look back and say, oh, I wish I would have done this, and that kind of thing. So let's talk about some Mary Kay situations that might come up in our business, or they probably will come up, because typically everything doesn't go perfect, and so these things happen. So for example, you have your sitter lined up and you're going to go do the appointment, and then something happens and the sitter canceled. So what are you going to do? Kind of think ahead of time. What are your backup plans? Do you have another plan B kind of sitter lined up? Is there some other options that you have, so that you know, and I can't tell you what the answer is, but so that you know that if that happens, what other options do you have? I know Lori Hawthorne, one of my sales directors, when her son was smaller, she always had a plan. She actually hired a sitter to come to her house at a certain time, because her husband oftentimes didn't get home from work at the time that he was supposed to come home from work. He worked the kind of job that just, sometimes he would get off at that time, but sometimes it just didn't work out that way. He was in a sales kind of thing, and so if the person is, he's a mortgage banker or something, so if it was still going well, he stayed there, and then she would get anxious about, she's got to leave, and then by the time he would get there, she's crabby, and, it just didn't get her off for a good night. So she just finally hired somebody, and that person would come, and sometimes they'd be there for a half hour, sometimes they'd be there for the evening, and she just, guaranteed her a couple hours of pay, and that way everybody was happy, and that worked out great, and she could build a business and is a very successful sales director today as a result of it. Their son is now in his 20s, and it's a non-issue today, but it got her through the hump of that particular time in her life. Sometimes you might have a situation where your guest cancels or your party cancels or something like that. How are we going to handle that? I know I found that if I reschedule it right away, it tends to work out better than if I just say, oh, okay, that's fine, yeah, maybe we can, sometimes I just let it go. And then you got to start all over again, rescheduling it, and call her back, and it's like, when do I call her? And you just start from scratch again, where it's a whole lot easier to just say, let's go ahead and just, what works for you. Maybe if you know that, say it's a party and she's doing it on a Tuesday night, and I know Tuesdays typically work for her, I say, well, how about next Tuesday? Would that work for you? Let's just go ahead and do that. We can reconnect with the guests. That's fine. Sometimes I just check to see what the issue is. Maybe she, sometimes they say, well, nobody's coming, and I'll ask her more specific questions. For example, well, tell me who is coming. Sometimes when she says nobody's coming, it means that she had a whole bunch of people she thought was coming, and there's only her and 2 other people coming. Well, that's still a party, and I would definitely still go and do it. But if you don't ask specific questions, then you don't really know what she's saying. And I've gone and done parties when she's tried to, was going to cancel because no one was coming, and go and sell, several $100s worth of products. So ask more questions. What if you have a team member and she quits? I remember that when we had answer machines that would, talk to you, and you would be standing next to the phone writing down the messages, and I had a team member call, and she was saying, "Oh, Joyce, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but, I'm quitting Mary Kay," and, I'm talking into the answer machine because obviously she can't hear me, but I'm saying, "You never started. You didn't open your showcase. You never did a party. You never did a makeover." She's not hearing any of this, but I was kind of laughing as I was talking because it's just like, she didn't start. She never did anything, and she was, I just had to find the funny in it because sometimes you just have to do that. A girlfriend of mine, Karen Hofer, she's a sales director, you probably know her, but she was saying about one of her relatives. She said she was in Mary Kay for a minute, and I heard this when I was pretty new to Mary Kay, and I just chuckled, and I thought, oh, that's a good way to put it, and it helped. I think it helps you to kind of realize that some people are in Mary Kay for a season, some people are in for very just different reasons, and that it's okay, and that if she wants to stick with it, that's great. If she, we tell them, try it. If you like it, stick with it. If you don't, quit, and that's okay. And I need to be okay with that if that's what she wants to do, and stop getting all shook or bent out of shape because of a decision that she makes. It's still a great opportunity for me and for other people, but not to get upset if she wants to do that. In fact, I was finding that I was not letting people quit. When I was a newer consultant, that I didn't even maintain these people as customers. So, let her go ahead and go back to being a happy customer. That's perfectly fine. What are you going to do if you're not getting the results of your career conversations, that you're talking to people about Mary Kay and you're not getting the results that you wanted to get? Maybe we could look at what you're saying, maybe review that with your director. Maybe sometimes, I know my first career conversations, I was bringing guests to the meetings just like my director told me to. I brought 13 guests to the meeting, 0 team members, 0. The first 13 guests, but then number 14, 15, and 16, the next 3 signed. So I went from 0 to 3 new team members all in a week in my unit. The other people in my unit, they're looking at, oh, this is easy for Joyce. She just got 3 new team members this week, and everybody that she brings signs. But they weren't looking at all the ones that I had brought before that. They're just looking at those 3 right then happened to sign. So the numbers do work out. It just sometimes it's not. It's just like a deck of cards. If you take the deck of cards and look for the face cards, you open, pull the cards and pull the cards. Sometimes they're all in a row, and sometimes they're not. What if you're not on target for finishing your star? You're trying to finish your star. The pieces aren't coming together. How are you going to handle that? Are you going to just throw your hands up and quit and say, oh, nah, it's not for me, I guess I wasn't meant to be a star? Or are you going to try something else? Successful people are willing to give it their all, try something else. If this isn't working, you try something else. Talk to your mentors. Who are you surrounding yourself with? If I surround myself with people who aren't going anywhere, then they're, oh, I guess you better quit. This is too hard, that kind of stuff. Or are you surrounding yourself with can-do people who will help you when you're struggling and, help you with your attitude? What are you going to do if your team member doesn't participate in the meetings with you and she just doesn't want to come, or she's got reasons or whatever that she isn't going to do it? Is that going to make you stay home? What if the meeting falls on your birthday? What if it falls on your anniversary? Early on in my business, I looked at Mary Kay because, we can do whatever we want, and we get to pick and choose our hours and pick and choose our everything. And sometimes that amount of choice makes people not do stuff. So what I decided is that if I would call in sick to a regular job, then I would call in sick to Mary Kay. So, for example, if I have the flu and I wouldn't, am not fit company, I would not go to my sales meeting, and I would, call in sick for Mary Kay. But would I call in sick for my birthday? Probably not. I would, obviously if it's a party, I would schedule around it. So I put in my family birthdays and important things into my calendar first, and I schedule around it. But I still work on, those days if, or schedule on. It's your choice, but you get to decide how you're going to handle those kind of situations. A lot of times I look at it as like little kids. It's, their birthday day a lot of times is really, really important. As we get older, if I celebrate and go out to dinner on my actual birthday or the day before or the day after, I don't really care. How are we going to handle it if we get discouraged? Sometimes we get so, what brings you up? What kinds of things help you to feel good about what you're doing or good about yourself so that you can handle it if you're discouraged? Is there somebody, do you have a power partner or a buddy that you can call that will help to lift you up? Ultimately, we need to learn to self-soothe. It's kind of like little kids. They, when they're little, they can have a pacifier, the binky or something like that. That's going to help them, to get calmed down. But as we mature, we have to find ways to calm ourselves down. So is there something that you can read or something that you can do to help you, get out of a funk if you find it yourself in a funk? What are you going to do if your customer, maybe she can't afford something? I've learned to offer her different options where she could maybe pay for part of it now and pay for the other part. We can put it on her debit card, and I can run her debit card, maybe run part of it today and then run part of it in a couple weeks when she gets paid, or split it into 3 and run part of it we decide ahead of time, and I write on the sales ticket, we're going to put in $50 today and $50 on such and such a date, and then $50 2 weeks after that, and write the dates and the amounts right on her sales ticket, so she and I both know exactly what we're doing, but we know, so that we make it affordable for her and her situation. But if I think of these things ahead of time, it's a pre-decision, then I'm more likely to remember it on the actual time when that situation comes up, instead of going, oh I don't know, well, whatever. That helps me to have grace under pressure when you're in the situation and you don't know what to do. I'll remember, oh yeah, I thought about this and I have an idea of what I'm going to do. It also helps me to find the funny in situations when maybe I need to learn to laugh at myself or cultivate the lighter side of life and that sort of thing. I think if I missed anything else. Just in closing, I just wanted to say that Roy Disney had an interesting way of looking at things. He said it's not hard to make decisions when you know what your values are. And a lot of these decisions and these pre-decisions are based on the values that you have in your life. So if you look at the pre-decisions that a lot of young girls are making now, there's a virginity decision that a lot of girls are making with their parents or with their father, and there's a virginity ring that's based on the values that the family has. And in Mary Kay, it's that same kind of thing, is that you have your values of what you want for yourself and for your life and for your future, and that we make those decisions ahead of time so that when we're in the tough situation, that our values are what holds true, not our emotions or the moment, the feeling of that moment isn't what's going to carry through. It's the value of what you want for yourself and for your family and your future. So thanks for joining us today, and have a wonderful weekend.